Did you bring that little bit of consciousness forward, starting to think about your body language in conversations, or perhaps, like Hailey said, she mentioned she started to recognize who she might be speaking to, which means you can create more win-wins in those conversations. Can I see, any reactions if anyone else started to use this to their advantage, what you learnt last week? You can give me a reaction down the bottom, maybe a little celebrate or something like that. Thumbs up, clap. Did you use what you witnessed or yes, we have one did. That's great. I'm I'm hoping a few more of you implemented, just even thinking about our body language, how that can affect our conversations. Great, we've got a few more. Brilliant. So that little reaction button is down the bottom, and you have a few things to choose from, so feel free to use that as we go. I'm going to share my screen. I have a couple of screens here today. I'm no longer in a hotel room, so hopefully everything should go well. But it is IT, so you never really know, do you? As we go. All right. Whew. How's your body language? How are you feeling? Are you sitting up straight? Are your feet on the ground? You bring those shoulders up right now, give them a big roll back, push them down, let that breath flow. Because if you don't breathe, you'll die. And breathing is a really important part of our body language. So we're going to continue today with our mastering communication and difficult conversations. And we're going to actually have a bit of a look at some difficult conversations today. Yeah.
I had a dream so big and loud, I jumped so high, I touched the clouds.
We want to wake up, get that body waking up, and a great way to communicate well to yourself is to get that energy flowing. I'm just moving my little pictures around to create a bit more space on my screen. But what we want to do is we're going to this morning have a look at the 6 ways we self-sabotage. And the reason I want to do this because it is part of our communication, and it's also part of the way that we stop things happening by the way we communicate to ourselves. So I would like to smash through a few of these self-sabotage things that we do for you to be able to identify perhaps maybe one that you can make a difference in. And I know that some of you out there will be overachievers and you'll say, but Kath, I do all of them. I get that, but let's see if we can at least fix one of those today. We're going to look at how to deal with difficult people. Are they difficult or just different? So we're going to have a look at that, and also how to create a difficult conversation that can end quite nicely for you. Does that sound like a good day? Give me a thumbs up. You ready? All right, brilliant. But just to kick off with, I want you to look at an item around your desk, and I want you to just pick up that item and just share quickly in the chat, how does it represent you? So I've got a little coffee cup here at the moment, and I guess for me, it actually reminds me a little bit of love. You know, that first sip of coffee, how great it feels. And the fact that my husband, after 30 years, makes my coffee for me in the morning. So it feels, yeah, it's like you're getting that little bit of love in the morning. So what item do you have around you that you feel might represent you a little bit? Because I think when you fill up your cup, you know, you fill up yourself with that love, you can then share it with other people. How about that? So what have you got around you that represents you, and how does it represent you? Keys to my first sale that I'm listing. Wow, fantastic. I love that. And it makes you feel great. It does. So what have you got sitting around your desk right now that represents you? Looks like we're getting some big messages about to come through. You know, even that pen, I remember I've still got that first pen that I picked up once I started to write my first chapter. Coffee is my go-to, keeps me going all day. Yeah, so we know what keeps us going. And that's from Renee. Got a laughing Buddha under my screen. It signifies calm and prosperity. Lovely, lovely. And also probably makes you happy when you see it. My plant forever growing. Wow, Ellie, that's awesome. I love to hear that. Forever growing. My elephant teacup. How does that represent you, your elephant teacup? All right, starting to think about my phone keeps me in touch with everyone and everything. So it's quite interesting. Everything that we have has energy, and we can actually create significance from almost anything that we pick up. So we're going to have a little bit of a look right now at 6 ways we self-sabotage ourselves. And right now I was getting you to think of things, to see things in a different light. So your pen holder my son made me at school. Wow, that holds that pen that you do all your work from. Lovely, Grant. So we don't have to self-sabotage. You know, we can find, you know, great things in anything that we pick up. You know, this reminds me of all the fun I had last year. 80 flights, 150 stages. It went with me everywhere. So you can start to see that you can find almost joy in every moment. But what we do is we self-sabotage. And I'm not 100% sure why there's been so much research, but you know, the brain likes to protect us. You know, it is set there to protect us. So a lot of the times it can hold us back from stepping into things. So I'm going to be asking some questions. You can feel free to unmute. If you have background noise, then just, you know, unmute when you're speaking. But I really want you to speak and join in. And I want to know, or you can jump into chat and you can type in chat. But the first reason we self-sabotage is it's not in our bones. And I want to know, what does that mean to you if something isn't in your bones? If it's not in your bones, what does that mean? So feel free to jump off mute and share. And the sooner you share, the more fun we will have. So what does it mean if it's not in your bones?
It means it's not part of us. It's not part of who we are.
Great. Yeah, it's not part of us. It might have been someone else's goal, or maybe the business set up a goal, but you know, you haven't sunk that into your bones. It mightn't be something that you think you can do or that you want to do. You know, just think about New Year's Eve, for instance, right? You know, so if I said, you know, wake up in the morning, I'm never going to drink again. Well, I'm not really going to sink that in my bones, because I love having little bubbles when I celebrate, right? But for other people, they would sink that into the bones. They'd write that down. I would never say that either, Haley. But, you know, it's really important that if we want to communicate well to ourselves, we need to start to sink things into our bones. We need to 100% believe it. Now, the last man standing, Steve Bradbury, he's from Victoria. And I remember him saying, like, he hated getting up early in the mornings, just hated it with a passion. But he stuck a note above his bedroom, you know, on the ceiling when he was 14, get up, you're an Olympian, so that he would get up to train. Now, some people say, oh, he was just lucky to win the gold medal. Who here knows his story? Can I see a show of hands? Yeah, a few of us. So last man standing, he won a gold medal at the Olympics for speed skating. And, you know, he had a strategy. We need to have strategies, you know, and we need to sink it into our bones. Like when he got there, you know, they could tell he wasn't the fastest one on the field. But you know what? People say he got lucky, luck. Write this down. Labor under correct knowledge. So when someone says, gee, you're lucky, I know that you have worked hard and you have learned things and put tools in place. And so he made it to the Olympics from Australia. He was chosen. He made those times. He got there. So he wasn't lucky. He worked really, really hard. And then he started to make it through a few of the heats. And then once he made it into the semifinals, they had a little bit of a strategy. And that was to stay standing. So that meant he needed to stay towards, you know, stay with the pack, but probably at the back of the pack. And believe it or not, as he went through, there was 3 rounds and people started to fall over and he was getting through. When it came to the final, he was at the back there. And on that last turn, the person in first place went over, took out second, third, fourth. He came through and took first place while people were crawling along the ground for second and third. And he couldn't believe that he did that. But, you know, he sunk it into his bones. And I don't know if he ever imagined winning the Olympics, but he knew that if he worked with his strategy, he had a chance. And that's what happens. And I believe that we sabotage when we don't sink things into our bones. When an idea comes up, but we don't write it down, we don't put it up, we don't look at it, we don't turn it into a goal to sink in our bones. So if you do want something to happen, then please, let's look at sinking that into your bones so you don't self-sabotage. The second thing people do is they get stuck in fear. They get stuck in fear. What does that mean to you? If you hear that, you get stuck in fear. So feel free to unmute and share or type into the chat box. What does it mean if you self-sabotage because you get stuck in fear? What does it mean if you get stuck in fear? So someone share. Don't, you know, this is a great environment for us to learn from each other as well. Happy to call out names. I can see you today. What does it mean if you get stuck in fear? We get caught in what ifs. Yeah, Kirk. You know, what if this happened? What if that happens? Your fear stops you from trying. You turn off, don't focus, stop going, stay in your comfort zone. Great. This is great, guys. Scared of the unknown, that lack of confidence. You know, a lot of people also say to me they get stuck in fear because they're fearful of what someone else might think. You know, what if it didn't work? Then how would I look? And so, you know, human beings do get stuck in fear. And so I have something for fear. And I say, face everything and rise. So another good one to write down, face everything and rise. And I really love this because, you know, there's been so many times in life, you know, where things come up, you know, against you. For instance, you know, we were in real estate and we were there in the global financial crisis. My husband fell really ill and he didn't go back to work. Having said that, I then started going in. We had another new agent there who had a license, so I quickly started to study mine and I took her with me to start to learn what properties we had. I rang the owners and I found out the teams were sort of sending messages backwards and forwards to people that were interested through email. And I said, is it okay if I ring them? So then I started to ring them because I'd seen all the properties. And it was really interesting because within 2 weeks, I'd sold 3 properties on one day and 5 in a week in our recession that we didn't have in Australia, apparently. So it just goes to show, you know, that we can either be consumed by fear or we can, you know, step in and find out what we need to do. And I'm not saying do stupid things, but sometimes when we do, it can make a difference as well. Let me give you an example. I was speaking over in Xiamen in China a few years back, and after the conference, I still had 4 days. I was going to do, you know, a bit of touring, but I was asked by one company to go to Shanghai, one to go to Beijing, and one to go to Xi'an. So I took the job in Xi'an and worked with their teams for 2 days, and then I went to the Terracotta Warriors, which I'd sort of always wanted to do. And so they took me there on this trip, and the next day they said, oh, you could, I said, I've got 1 more day, what should I do? And they said, oh, you could go to this mountain, it's got a gondola and you can go up the top. It's just 3,000 meters high. And I thought, you know, I have a fear of heights, but I thought, wow, going up there and getting on top of a mountain, how cool would that be? There's no other way I could get on that mountain. So I took this car early in the morning. They picked me up at 6 a.m. We got there and I had a very thin little backpack. I had an apple, a bottle of water and some money. Anyway, they said, we'll see you in 8 hours. I'm like, 8 hours? And they said, yes. I said, where's the gondola? And they said, oh, no, you climb. I said, I climb? And they said, yes, you climb. And I've got a fear of heights. And I remember sort of stumbling out the car and looking at this mountain, and I may have had something wet on my face, but the North Ridge was only an hour or so away. And 3 thoughts came through my head. First of all, this man walked past me and he had all these bottles. And I thought, well, if he can do that, then I could do it. At least I can get to the North Point. And then as I was climbing, I was sort of thinking, it's just like business. Just take one step at a time and see where you go. And I think that's what business really does feel like. You take that one step at a time. You've just got to start. And then, I was halfway up the North Point, and all of a sudden it was like, what goes up must come down. So I thought, okay, I'll deal with that later. So I'm climbing up. I get to the North Point, and that was okay, but it wasn't very exciting. It was a little thin area, a couple of little temples, and I looked at the mountain behind me, and it was really high. And I got out my phone and I did a live video. So I think if you go back to 2016 and my Facebook, you'll see that, because I wanted people to know where I was. At that stage, there was no other, Caucasians on the mountain. There was no one else speaking English. So just in case something happened. Anyway, so I tell this story. I do a lot on fear and sabotage and courage over the last few years. But I'd never put any pictures into the PowerPoint. I kept saying to people, I'll show you some photos. So in February this year, I went to my Facebook, grabbed a few photos to put into the PowerPoint to show you the climb. And then I thought, I want to know the name of the mountain, because there's 5 hiking mountains in China. This was Xi'an. And so I went into the internet and looked it up. And this is what came up. So I climbed the deadliest hiking mountain in the world. My pictures are on the Facebook. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. If you told me I was going to do that, I would have had to spend months preparing for it. And to be honest, I probably wouldn't have done it. Like, why would you do that? So it's interesting sometimes when we do, step outside our comfort zone, you can find that anything really is possible. And guess what? Surprise, I have no fear of heights anymore. So, it's worthwhile stepping into some of those fears that we have and conquering them, because right now, I don't even know where my comfort zone is. I've started riding horses again, like I did when I was a kid, and I'm just doing all those things. I'm not holding myself back. So I hope that after this sabotage, that maybe you don't hold yourself back, or maybe now you're just writing down something that perhaps you feel that's holding you back, if you're getting stuck in fear. And that lack of confidence, I would have had no confidence to climb a 3,000-foot mountain in 40 degrees heat, like not at all. Yet when I finished that day and they picked me up, I actually, by the way, found the gondola up on the top. It was like on the South Ridge. But I came all the way back down to the north, so I'd know that I would get back with them. And when they picked me up, they said, oh, you look very good. Did you not climb? I said, no, I climbed, but I feel amazing. So, we got to step into that fear sometimes. Right, the third thing that we struggle with, can I see any nods of head? Procrastination. Sometimes we procrastinate too much, and this holds us back. I would love you to watch this.
This morning I got up and got ready quickly because I had to get a lot of stuff done. I sat down at my desk to start getting my stuff done, and I spilled my coffee, so I got a sponge to clean it up, and I figured I'd take an extra minute to clean the whole desk because a clean desk would help me get my stuff done. When I was finished, I realized I hadn't eaten anything and I didn't want to be hungry while I got my stuff done, so I went into the kitchen and I was out of cereal. When I got to the grocery store, I remembered a bunch of other crap I needed to get, and I figured I was already there, so I did my shopping for the week so I didn't have to worry about it while I got my stuff done. When I got home, I didn't feel like cereal anymore, and so I made an omelet and I did the dishes so I wouldn't have to do them after I got my stuff done, and then I went out to get some oil from the hardware store because my desk chair is kind of squeaky and I didn't want to be distracted by a squeaky chair while I got my stuff done. When I got back, it was getting kind of late and I knew I wouldn't be able to get my stuff done today, so I started watching the Twilight Zone marathon on TV. I just have to make sure I get to bed early because I want to be well rested tomorrow so I can get my stuff done.
All right. We've got a few nods of the heads. A couple of people procrastinate. I'd love you to pop into the chat. What do you do when you procrastinate? So everybody out there, come on, let's get into this. What do you do when you procrastinate? So I'll let you know what I do. I think the first thing I do is I make a cup of tea. And if I get to the end of the day and there's a lot of teacups around my office, I know I have procrastinated. You do the washing. Well, my husband would love that over me drinking cups of tea. Make a list. Clean. Yes, Megan, that's a great one as well. Eat, Olivia. Yes. A lot of people eat. Some people like to watch Netflix, maybe just one or two or three. I've got a cafe around the corner. Perfect. So there's lots of things that we do when we procrastinate, but the good thing is to identify it, because once you've identified it, what you can do then is say, okay, I'm going to do this task and then I can eat, or then I can go around the corner, or then I can go and clean, or make sure when you leave at nighttime that you leave that office clean so it's not the thing that comes in and distracts you. Michelle, I stress and then don't sleep for worrying. That's no good. And you know what the interesting thing is? We all know that worry doesn't do anything. So if I can fix it, I will. If there's something that I can do, some action I can take, and if not, then I'll just pray and just let it go anyway. And that's my solution to worrying. And I know there's simple solutions, but once you start to practice, it's the simple things that do make that difference. So we all procrastinate. So write down what you do there. Write on a piece of paper in front of you right now as well, and put a little cross through it, because that's all you have to do is stop that procrastination. And we're going to have a look at the next thing that we do when we self-sabotage. And that is that we're not willing to fail. Not willing to fail. So if he asked her out and she said no, okay. But if he asked her out and she said yes, what a difference that would have made for him. But he'll never know because he wasn't willing to fail. When we just dip our toes in, we come up with that idea, we just dip our toes in a little and then we go, oh yeah, I knew it wouldn't work. We're actually, we're creating that because we're not willing to fail. We actually have to jump with both feet in. And Haley and I were just talking about that this morning. Like when you have that idea and you create that plan, you've now got to believe in yourself and you've just got to jump in and be willing to fail, because we learn so much. How many times did it take to create that light bulb, that light bulb moment? Hundreds. So we've got to keep going. We can keep testing, but jump all in. Don't hold yourself back because you're not willing to fail. What would happen if you succeeded? So this is another way that we self-sabotage, and we self-sabotage mainly through our thinking. We get stuck in our thinking. That T and stuck, it's the thinking. Okay, so we need to be willing to fail. All right, number 5, we overanalyze things. What does that mean to you if we overanalyze things? Does anyone here self-sabotage because they overanalyze? They're not willing to let it go. Let's see in the chat if any of you overanalyze. Or you can just give me a thumbs up if you like. If you're one of those people, get stuck, can't move forward, always look at the negatives. Yeah, all the time. It was really interesting because our compliance people, they love to make sure everything's right, so they can't let it go. But just remember, there's a thing called continuous improvement. So we can continually improve things. All right. So over-analyzing can actually be a way of self-sabotage too, because it does not allow us to move forward. And number 6 I want to share with you is multitasking. Now, they say women do this really, really well. But, you know, men are now under the pump to multitask with so many things too. And the interesting thing is, can you do more than one thing at once? I want to give you a little exercise right now. So can everyone just get a piece of paper in front of them and a pen? Can you give me a thumbs up? I want you to have a piece of paper and a pen. Don't do anything yet, but in a moment, I'm going to get you to write the first letter of your name. Think you can see that? And then you're going to put a number under it. And then I'm going to get you to write a second letter and then a number, and then a third letter and then a number. And you're going to go all the way through your first name and your surname doing this exercise. Okay, so one letter, one number. One letter, one number. And I'm going to time you, and you've got to do your first name, all of your first name, all of your second name. One letter, one number, one letter, one number. Okay, ready, set, go. All right, so we've had Kirk put his thumb up. All right, okay, Hallie, great. We're getting a few of you finished now. All right, so I had a little bit of a look at your time. Now this time, now I don't know about you, but when I do this exercise, I start to get a little frustrated by the time I'm getting to the end of it. How did it feel in your mind? Yeah, a little bit like that. So this time, when I count to 3, you're going to write your whole name out, plus your surname, and then you'll just write the numbers straight underneath. Okay, and I'm going to time you. Don't do it yet, Kirk or anyone. Start from scratch on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Yep, great. Thanks, Ellie. Made one mistake, Grant. All right. So in actual fact, that was a lot easier, wasn't it? And what happens with multitasking is it becomes exhausting because we pull from one area to the next. We're in the middle of an email, then we look at our phone for something else, then something else happens, and the next thing pops up. And that's why we're starting to become tired as a race. You know, it's the speed of things that are happening, and the fact that it becomes more tiring when we're working here and then we grab something else from somewhere else, then somewhere else, and somewhere else. So with multitasking, you know, they can say that there's no real multitasking because you couldn't do a number and a letter at the same time. You still had to pull from those different areas. But that's what makes us a little more tired. And you may have watched this, you know, it's great. It's from a doctor. He does a talk, a TED talk on the 2 brains. You know, I love this. There's the male brain and the female brain. And he says the male brain is made up of, just imagine like just separate boxes. And there's a rule to these boxes that these boxes do not touch. So, you know, there is the work box, there is the home box, there is the kid box, there is the wife box, there is the mother box, the mother-in-law box, the sports, all those fun things. They're all in these boxes. And there's one box there that he calls the nothing box. Now, just remember, these boxes are not allowed to touch. Now, there's the female brain. And just imagine that brain like a bunch of wire coat hangers where they're all touching and joined and sort of mangled together. These wire coat hangers where everything connects. Okay, so this is the female brain. So just listen to this for a moment, guys. So the female will see a set of keys on the table. Now, those set of keys on the table will remind her, oh, I've got to go and get the kids at this time. I better make some afternoon tea. I've got to go and pick up the milk. I've got to go and get the extra things for dinner. Then we've got to do the homework. Then I've got to get clothes off the line. This is what goes on from seeing a set of keys in the woman's brain. So let's go back to the male brain for a moment. So, you know, the male brain, you know, with these boxes that don't touch, and there's this nothing box that's there too, he can be sitting there looking quite intelligent and relaxed, you know, and the female will come up and say, what are you thinking about? And he'll say, nothing. And the female will say, well, you must be thinking about something. What, don't you like my food? Don't you like my hair? What, am I too fat? What's the problem? And then next minute, the male's brought into this conversation that he knew nothing about. And I think this is why females need to go to yoga and meditation a lot more, right? And, you know, the male could be sitting and, you know, he describes it as the male will be sitting in front of the TV and he'll have his remote and he'll be sitting back and click, click, click. And the female comes along. She sits down. She goes, what are you watching? And he says, nothing. And she goes, you must be watching something. Stop, watch this, watch that. So you can see how, you know, even those brains and the way that we do things are so different. But when it comes to multitasking, sometimes, you know, we might need to do it, you know, lightly, but I would suggest, so that you don't self-sabotage, that you do give yourself time in one project before you go back to emails, before you go back to the phone, before you let that next bright shining thing come in. You know, finish something, give yourself an hour on each of those areas that you need to work in so that you don't self-sabotage through multitasking. All right, so what I'd love you to do now in the chat box is, we've got 18 people on, is to choose, you know, what do you do? And if there's 4 of you in one room, all pop in as well and say what it is. But what do you do? Which one of these 6 things do you do that holds you back, that self-sabotages you? Are you multitasking? Do you have too many balls in the air? Are you flicking between too many different things? You know, is it fear? Do you get stuck in fear? Or you don't actually sink it into your bone, that goal that you want to hit? Perhaps you procrastinate too much. Which one is it? Do you overanalyze? Or perhaps you're really not willing to fail. And once you type into the chat, we're getting a few things coming through: overanalyzing, too many balls in the air. What do you do? It's really important to start to write these things down so we can sink that into our bone and then put it on a piece of paper so we can get rid of it. Multitasking, too many balls, and not willing to fail. Yeah. Overanalyzing, not willing to fail, procrastinate, and overanalyze. We've got a couple of overachievers in there. Getting more than one out. Fear, yeah, getting stuck in fear. Yep, fear of the unknown. Fear, will it work? Fear, won't it work? So keep going. If you haven't popped into the chat box, pop in. What do you do when you hold yourself back? Because this is a way that we communicate to ourselves that we need to actually stop. So if you write these down on a piece of paper in front of you as well, and all you have to do is put a cross through it, because once we start to bring these things to our mind and to our mindset, and we start to communicate more, that when we see ourselves with all the balls and we're flicking, we need to just stop for a moment, have a breath, and start to work on one thing. So don't self-sabotage, believe in yourself. You know, when you believe in yourself, others believe in you too. And I wanted to do the self-sabotage with you because I think it's so important to start to bring this and to anchor it so that we can make a difference with what we do during a day. Now, last week I showed you this, you know, our conscious connection framework. It starts with you and me. Our body language is a big part, which we looked at last week. You know, we react in 1/25 of a second before we even speak. So hopefully we're starting to be a bit more mindful of our body language. We're going to have a little bit of a look at our language we use next week. and becoming more mindful of that. And we had a look at our behaviors and how others behave so that we can create that win-win playing field, that level playing field. Now, if you want to get a deeper resource on the disc, then please feel free to email me and the team will send that out to you. But just a quick reminder of our disc last week. We had our eagles, our peacocks, our doves, our owls, our D's, our I's, our S's, and our C's. Where did you sit on that table? Quickly throw into the chat. And while you're doing that, I'm going to play a video that I'd like you to watch.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much. Bye. Oh, what's up?
I have your bonus check.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Now, I want you to be prepared. The figure's not exactly what we discussed.
Why not?
Because after careful consideration, I felt that figure was not appropriate. Although you may not agree, you have to trust my experience and
Trust?
judgment.
You want me to trust you? Do me a favor, Ed. Don't use big words you don't understand.
It's a complicated issue, Aaron. You're not
I did a job.
lawyer.
You should reward me accordingly. It's not complicated. You know what? That is the problem. All you lawyers do is complicate situations that aren't complicated. Do you know why people think all lawyers are backstabbing, blood-sucking scumbags? Because they are. And you know, I cannot believe that you were doing this to me now when I'm up to my in Kettleman plaintiffs, which, by the way, looks like it's going to be double the amount that we had in Hinckley. And you expect me to go out there, leave my kids to be looked after by strangers, knock on doors, get these people to trust you with their lives, and the whole time you're me. I want you to know something, Ed. It is not about the number. It is about the way my work is valued in this firm. It's about how no matter what I do, you're not...
As I was saying, I decided that the figure you proposed was inappropriate, so I increased it. Do they teach beauty queens how to apologize? Because you suck at it.
All right, so that's a little bit of fun, but starting to see how behaviors, and we know this was set up for TV, but what could have been done a little bit differently so that that reaction didn't happen? And was he a DIS or C, and was she a DIS or C? All right, so something for you to start to think about. And how could knowing the DISC model help you manage your workplace relationships better? So I'd love just either jump on and just let me know, or pop in the chat, you know, why would knowing this DISC model, how can it help you manage workplace relationships better? Let me know what you think. So jump into chat or jump onto and let us know why is it important to start to understand this model? Tailor conversations, manage other personalities, knowing what to expect, communicate differently. Great, with different personality types. Awesome. So we're getting some great, listen. Wonderful. If you just stopped for a moment longer and listened till he finished, she would have heard the outcome. Awesome. Understand where other people are coming from and with their emotions. Great. And he knew what sort of person she is. So he approached it so that he'd let her get rolled up and then show her what happens. Awesome. Listen to hear, not respond. Love it. You know, where did the people at work start to fit in this model? I hope during the week you had a little bit of a look at that, and also starting to become a little bit more aware of those clients that we're speaking to as well. You know, when it looks at internal customers and external customers, it's all the same. It really is, because if we look after our teams well, we look after each other well, you know, the business grows, doesn't it? Because, you know, when you're at a barbecue and someone says, oh, I've got to go and rent a house, then you're more likely to say, hey, you know, we've got an awesome team, we're doing this, we're doing that. And you want to speak about it as well. And just remember, at work, when I'm speaking to someone in my team, I become their customer. And when they ask me a question, they're my customer. And we need to look after each other so much. I love our team. We have so much fun. That's awesome, Hallie. You know, and it's really important that we start to understand that, you know, whoever is needing or asking from us, they then our customer. You know, what is that care factor we have? You know, are people difficult or just different? And I love that that has already come up, and we're going to have a look at that in just a moment and break up into groups very soon. But in the meantime, just watch it.
Good morning. Can I take your order?
Can I get a tall chai?
A large black coffee.
A what?
Large black coffee.
Do you mean a venti?
No, I mean a large.
He means a venti. Yeah, the biggest one you got.
Venti is large.
No, venti is 20.
Danny.
Yeah. Large is large. In fact, tall is large, and grande is Spanish for large. Venti's the only one that doesn't mean large. It's also the only one that's Italian. Congratulations, you're stupid in 3 languages.
Look, venti is a large coffee.
Really? Says who? Fellini?
How much is that? Here's a 10.
Do you accept lira, or is it all
You know
euros
what? Just
now?
keep the change. Jesus, Dan, you know what they call the sizes here. You know what? You've been picking fights with everybody. The girl at the party.
She said ASAP.
Oh, ASAP. Oh, I'm sorry. Huge crime.
It's like 24/7, or been there, done that. You hate that too.
I don't hate it enough to let it ruin my day. It's getting worse. You know, man, the sun is shining, but you have lost the ability to take any joy in life. I can't stand it anymore. You're just a miserable... You're mean to everybody. And FYI, it's called a venti because it's 20 ounces. 20. Venti.
Is that true?
And that would have been a difficult customer. Having said that, you know, what is really interesting is that any one of our styles on a given day could work in the basement and could come across that way when we're not so conscious of how we're behaving. So what I'm going to do is give you a list of difficult people. And I'd love you to take a photo of this, because you're going to pop into groups very soon. And within your group, I would like you to do at least 2 of these. Now, I don't care which 2 you choose. We're going to have 4 groups, because even if you all end up sharing the same one, you'll pick up different things that the different groups have come up with. But, you know, do at least 2 to 3. Maybe pick one, you know, towards the top group, bottom group, wherever you want to go in your groups. You're going to have a look at this. And then I want you to write on your piece of paper description. So you'll have the title. So you might do the quiet one, for instance. Description. You can describe that quiet person, and also what disc style would they be likely to fit in. Now, it could be all of them if you wanted it to be. But, you know, just start to have a little bit of a look. And solution. How are you going to communicate to create a win-win? So I'd like to see you do at least 2 to 3 in this time in your group. We're going to break into 4 groups. We've got 17 people. We're going to break into 4 groups. And that's what you're going to do. So, Hayley, when you're ready, I'm going to get you just to break into 4 groups, and we'll have around, let's give ourselves around 5 minutes for this exercise, 5 to 6 minutes. All right, are you ready? All right, I will see you all very soon. Enjoy your chat, take a picture, know which ones, and then have a choose. Bye, everyone. See you soon. So feel free to unmute yourself. And what we'd love to do is to see, you know, who you chose and just to describe it. So can one person from each of the groups share now? Is everyone back yet, Hayley?
No, we've just got a couple more people to join us. So it's 10 seconds to go and they'll be kicked out. So they'll be back then.
All right.
There you go. They should all be back in. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well done. So what I'd love to do is we had 4 groups. So I'd love at least one person from each group to share who they chose and what the solution was. So if you could choose one to share one of the ones that you had. So who would like to go? Who was in team 1?
How do you know which group you were in, like what number?
It just had it on the screen, but that's okay. If you don't know, that's all right. Olivia, could your group share one of them, please?
Certainly. So we did the stubborn one. So we thought they would have the dominant disc profile, and to have a conversation and communicate with them for like a win-win. You'd have to be straight to the point and have all your facts ready to tell them so they have all the information. No fluffing around and like, you know, just to be very firm of what you're doing and things like that.
Fantastic. All right. And I'm sure anyone else that chose the stubborn one could add to that too if they like in a moment. You know, the stubborn one does get very stuck in their position. And sometimes they're unwilling to see those other points of view. And you did have that a D can be like that, but also an S can be like that. So even our reserved people, they get quiet, but they get stuck on what it is that they're going to do. And it's important to be able to engage them in discussion, get them to start to speak about it. And if you really know that you are correct on this, you've got all your information, your facts and figures, then it's about showing that and letting them know too. However, if they're really upset, the first thing is we've got to have those great discussions, bring them around, sort it out for them, make them feel happy, and then, only then, we can show them how it needs to be done as well, providing that documentation to help support you. Is there anyone else out there that would like to add to the stubborn one before we move on? All right.
Our group also did the stubborn one, and we thought sort of probably to add to Olivia's point, we sort of thought that we would have to let someone who's stubborn and is already quite set in their own way, we'd have to let them sort of speak first and listen to them before we try and tell them what we think, or especially if we disagree, because I think it would be really hard to swing someone who's particularly really stubborn. So having all your facts and everything is really great, but I think listening to what they have to say is also really important.
Hugely important. Well done. Thank you. Let's add that to it. Great job. And Hayley, being stubborn, is there anything else that you could say we should add to win a stubborn person over?
Yeah, so Catherine's picking on me because I said, oh, I'm stubborn. And she said, how do you deal with you? And I went, I don't know. But I'm really stubborn. I'm a Taurus. So I am quite set in my ways. And once I get focused on something, that's what I'm doing. And I do tend to always think I'm right.
And what would be the best way to be able to persuade you or to show you that there is another way?
Evidence. So I need facts and figures. If someone just says to me, this is the way it is, I just go, nah. But if you can actually show me evidence and proof, then that's fine. I'll go with it.
Yeah. And I can see Olivia's team going, yep, that's what we said. We need to do that. All right. Well done. Okay, so whoever wasn't in that team, can we have another one that was described, please? So I'm not sure who. Let's have a look. Grant, did you end up making a team?
I did. Yeah, I joined it at the last minute. I had to take a phone call, unfortunately. But yeah, so I only joined it at the last 2 minutes.
Oh,
of that,
okay.
So unfortunately.
Who was in your team?
I think it was Ali and the other names I can't remember.
Okay.
The other two names are on the screen.
Tanya's got me, so let's ask
Okay, there you
Tanya. Tanya, who they had.
So the second one we did was the quiet one. Did you want me to go through? Yeah. Okay. So we said with the quiet one, obviously they're probably not going to speak up. So we've got to ask them a lot of questions, open-ended questions, and make sure that they're in a comfortable. We're creating a really comfortable space for them to open up and ask us.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, you know, sometimes the quiet one could be any of the styles because, say, for instance, a D was bored or wasn't interested in what was happening, or the I can make them quiet in a situation. No one's listening to me. Why should I bother letting them know? Perhaps you're not interested in the subject matter being spoken about. A quiet one can be someone who's a little nervous to speak up, or they could be a little shy as well. And maybe, you know, you're quiet because you're just sick and tired of dealing with this issue that no one listens to. So as you can see, it could be any of the styles, but often a quiet person would be a more reserved, which could lean towards our S's and C's. But if you know they normally, you know, speak out, then, you know, maybe ask some questions, some easy questions for anyone to start to involve themselves into that conversation. You know, try and find out why perhaps they're being a bit quiet on this subject at the moment. And, you know, give positive feedback or encouragement to someone you know that is a little quiet when they do join in that conversation with you. All right, does anyone have anything else they'd like to add for the quiet one? If not, let's hear about somebody else. What other person have you chosen on these difficult people?
I'm happy to go, Catherine.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thanks, Johnny.
We had a know-it-all, someone that can't listen to other opinions or won't, and pretty much someone that would want to do it their own way. We would let them vent, give them a hearing, and probably just delegate tasks that would benefit from their attitude, or tasks that can be seen pretty objectively.
Great. Yes, the know-it-all can seem a little frustrating to others at times. Sometimes the know-it-all really does know it all. It's a subject that they are really passionate about, and we should probably start to ask them some more difficult questions around it to see exactly what they know. Are they an expert in the subject, or do they just like to hear their own voice at those meetings? So I love what you said around that as well, you know, starting to ask them, you know, some more questions, be prepared, have that documentation ready if you need to show them that perhaps there's more to this than what they knew. And I think really important, Johnny, too, is having that confidence in yourself when you're speaking with the know-it-all, to have that information to hand so that you can show them those facts and figures as well when you need to. But a lot of the times, if they do really know it, find out how much they know. And once again, still have that confidence in yourself. All right, would you like to share any other ones right now before we move on? Does anyone want to find out a little bit more? Did anyone choose a different one?
I didn't, but I'd love to hear your take on the yakety yak. I used to work with someone years ago, and they just, every phone call they'd hang up and then they'd tell me the story of the phone call, and I was like, I don't care. And I found it really hard to work with them and manage them because it was just constant. And I know that others in the office, we used to just put our iPods on and just listen to music because we couldn't get anything done. So how do you deal with the yakety yaks without being rude and stopping their energy?
Yeah. So who is a yakety yak?
Anyone a yakety yak? Want to admit to it?
D-I-S or C? You're on mute, Hayley.
They're the peacock. Which one's the peacock?
The influence. So they're more likely to be chatty the higher they go. So, you know, if you were 10 or under, when you do the quiz, it's a little bit different, but if once you get over 10 in the area, you're quite strong in that. And so, you know, if you come up against a 15i, they're going to be chat, chat, chat all the time, and get really excited about things too, which of course can be a little exhausting. You know, if you're at a meeting, it's really important to bring them back on track. And, you know, tying what they're saying back to the issue at hand. So what happened then? This happened and that happened. And what do you need to do? Because what you'll find is with our yakety yaks, the follow-up isn't always the best. So it's good to start to identify. So if they are going to talk, so, okay, so what steps do you need to take for this client so that you can get them back on track and get them into their calendar doing those sorts of things that you need to do. And it's important because while they're yakking, there could be issues that come up. And so you need to sort of separate those and keep them on track. Okay, so what's happening with this one? What's happening with that one? And if they're just talking about the weather, Hayley, you may need a headset. But, you know, it's important to have those difficult conversations, which we're about to have a look at in a moment. So once you've identified people, how do we have these conversations so that, you know, a lot of offices now are open and it can be distracting. And we have to have difficult conversations at times, which nobody wants to. All right, so let's have a look at the 3 F's. And these are important when you're going in to have those difficult conversations, starting to have a look at, you know, what are the facts of the issue? Try and stick to the facts. Don't, this person really annoyed me. It's because they're opposite you. They're opposite who you would be in the way that you would deliver or speak. So what are the facts of the issue? You know, if you know that this is affecting the office, then you need to start to write down those so that you can have that conversation. You know, create a list so that you don't get sidetracked, because what happens is when you go to have that conversation, a lot of times they want to bring in those feelings and emotions and you. We need to take the you out of it. Frequency, start to write down. So, you know, if you say, you know, you come in late, they'll say, well, when am I late? It's really important to, if you are going to prepare for a difficult conversation, that you do start to take your notes and have your time so that you have your facts and figures ready when you need to. And it does create that frustrated relationship. So discuss what is important to you in terms of this relationship, in terms of how we go forward in the business. And perhaps you might need to dig a little bit deeper. You're seeing this on the surface, but what's happening underneath? And so we're going to have a look at that language for leadership next week, as well as part of our communication, so that we can dig a little bit deeper to the root of the problem. So the 3 F's are really important when you're starting to prepare for a difficult conversation, thinking of facts, what is the issue to hand, understanding, you know, is there a frequency, is there a pattern to what's happening, making sure you do write down those dates and times, and get ready to discuss what is frustrating you at this point in time, but also be prepared to dig a little bit deeper so you get to know this person too. Once again, if you talk to that person in your language, it goes to their head, but when you talk to them in their language, it goes to their heart. And that's how we create more win-wins. Now, there's lots of barriers to change. Ineffective communication definitely is a massive barrier. Lack of planning, if we don't plan this out. Team resistance to our new ideas that are coming through. And of course, cultural confusion, like who are you speaking to and do they understand what you're saying? I always say a year from now, you will wish you had started communicating better today. I would love you to start to even do that little diary to see, you know, when you use a different body language, when you start to understand who you're speaking to, you know, what are the outcomes? Are they getting better for you? You know, communication, we always say, is key. There's you, them, but we got barriers in between us that stop us communicating well. And we're going to have a look at those in just a second after we watch this.
So that was my weekend, nothing special. What about you? You seem rather chipper for a Monday.
Today is a good day. It's my performance review.
Wait a minute. You're excited about the performance review?
My next meeting is a one-on-one. I have to deliver a performance review.
That's not necessarily a bad thing.
It's with Matt.
Oh, I can see why you're so depressed.
Man, I'm stoked about this one. Because last time Melanie gave me kind of a bad review.
Last time I gave him an extremely negative review.
What exactly did she say?
You know, mumbo-jumbo manager speak.
I couldn't have been more clear.
Like needing a little touch-up here and there.
His appearance was sloppy, he was passive and unmotivated.
Maybe learn some more stuff.
And the quality of his work was completely substandard.
And we talked about my future.
I also said that I didn't see much of a future for him.
Dude, you have to read between the lines, but she was majorly hinting that I could go places.
I don't think he's gonna make it to the end of the year anyway.
With a little spit and polish? No big deal. So that's what I did. Got myself some spit and polish. Buddy, you're looking at Mr. Improved.
If anything, he's gotten worse. I don't know which is more objectionable, his social deficiencies or his technical incompetencies.
I mean, I busted my hump this last year. I even took some night classes at the community college.
I can see why you're so enthused about things.
It's more than that. I think I'll finally get that promotion I deserve. And believe me, with a new baby on the way, I could use all the cash I could get.
I'm putting Matt on probation, and that means no yearly bonus, but fortunately, I hear his wife has a good job.
Especially with my wife losing her job and all.
Sorry to hear about that, mate. Tell you what, you give me a call after the review and we'll celebrate over lunch or something.
Yay.
Okay.
Cheerio.
Well, call me for lunch later. I have a feeling you're gonna need to take a break.
Well, Matt, are you ready?
You bet. Now, I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, I know. And maybe it's just nerves because my wife lost her job and all. But you'll see I deserve that promotion.
Promotion?
Yes. And I have you to thank. You know that little pep talk last time? And with being a new daddy and all. Anyway, I'm just so excited to hear what you have to say.
I don't think any of us want to be in that situation. So, it's really important, isn't it, when we do get feedback, or, we personally get feedback or give feedback, that we follow through, that we still keep following up and open that communication. There's different things that get in the way of communicating well. There's those barriers between people. So what I'd love you to do is to let's just quickly jump into the groups, say for around 3 minutes, and I would love you to write down what sort of barriers that stop communication from happening well. Okay, so that's all I want you to do. Is we're going to jump into groups just for around 3 minutes, and I want you just to list some barriers together on what stops us communicating well. All right, so when you're ready, Hayley, let's let everyone in. What are barriers to the way we communicate? Groups, what did you have that were barriers that were stopping it? Okay, let's quickly just throw that out there. Deborah, what did you have? I'll just get you off mute, sorry.
Making sure that you give time to the meeting or whatever and be there with the people, and that stops having those barriers because you're actually in the moment, in the present with what's happening.
Great, being present with them. Awesome. All right, what else do we have? What are some barriers that we have to communication? Is Eva there? Or Kirk? What have you got? Oh, Eva's here. Okay, Eva, go.
Language or cultural differences can be a barrier.
Absolutely. Language, cultural differences. Grant, did you want to jump in with any more?
Yeah, well, we wrote, or in this case here, feeling sorry for somebody or being sympathetic to their situation. So therefore, we changed the way in which we were intending on communicating with them.
Yeah, you can absolutely start to change that. Excuse me, I sound wonderful with my voice today. No COVID here. Yeah, so there's lots of things that can start to create barriers, and there's lots of things we can do to break those barriers down. You know, culture, you know, we have different people from diverse backgrounds that can even change the way that, you know, we've said something that they might take it differently. Experience of the people that you're working with can get in the way of the way that we communicate. The emotion at the time, your emotion or their emotions, can actually be a barrier to what they hear or to whether they're putting up walls, the mood. You know, if someone's disinterested in that topic, there's going to be a barrier to how much information they take from you for that. Our education levels, our vocabulary, you know, if you're using jargon, all these sorts of things can get in the way. Actual just noise. You know, if there's a car going past or a train tooting at that time when you're giving that information. And of course, our body language, as you saw last week, can get in the way. We may just all of a sudden think about something else. Someone sees a different look at our face and they make up a story for around that. And of course, it creates another barrier to our communication. So I'm going to show you a couple of pictures, and I just want you to very quickly write down in the chat what you see first. Are you ready? Go. Quickly write in the chat, what do you see first? Okay. Wow, nearly everyone saw two people, but Johnny saw a candlestick. Give me a thumbs up if you saw both. We have two people and we have a candlestick or a vase going up the middle. All right, are you ready? I'm going to show you another picture. Write in the chat, what do you see first? Go. A lady, an old hag. A lady, a woman in Art Deco clothing. Very descriptive, Kirk. All right, so some of us saw the young lady first and some of us saw the old lady first. So once again, we saw things differently. All right, you ready? Go. What did you see first? Write in the chat, everyone. A winking woman, a fish, a woman. So Grant saw a fish. Olivia saw a fish first. So once again, we see things differently. Give us a thumbs up if you saw both. Yep, both now. Well done, Ellie. So we don't always see things the same, do we? Have a look at this one. What do you see first? A man against a wall, an Indian, a face. Yeah, so there's like a big Indian head, isn't there? And there is an Eskimo peering into a cave. Can you see both of those? Ah, we don't always see things straight away, do we? We don't always understand things straight away. Yeah. All right, tell me, what can you see? What number can you see on this picture? Great. Just checking to make sure you're not colorblind, so it looks like you're all okay. All right. You know, there's dangerous misconceptions. I really want you to get this. You know, people always pay attention when you're speaking to them. No, they don't. When people say they're paying attention, they really are. No, they're not. When someone says, I know, they really do. Not always. And if I say this over and over and over, I know that you'll understand it. No, That doesn't happen. It's really getting to understand who we're speaking to and doing that global listening with them. We can reduce conflict. Conflict occurs when the emphasis is on the differences between people. So what we need to do is emphasize the similarities. Instead of picking out how different we are, where are we similar? So that we can start to reduce those differences. So feel free if you want to take a picture of this screen. Now, when we call blending, it's a little bit like matching. Blending is any behavior where we can start to reduce those differences, where we can start to blend more with that person, with our language, with our body language, building a better rapport with them. It can help us deal with conflict a lot easier as well. We blend with our voice, we blend with our facial expressions, we blend with our body, we blend with our breathing. If they're breathing slower, we can relax our breathing. If they're breathing a little quicker, sometimes we need to pick up to match them as well. Just remember, the only thing that you don't match is an accent. All right, so don't try and copy anyone's accent. And of course, when we're having difficult conversations, or we know that we need to have one, we can start to feel stress. One of the best things you can do is just to breathe. Take a deep breath. It relaxes you immediately. If you start to feel yourself shallow breathing, just stop, take a deep breath. Visualize the outcome of this meeting. Visualize it. Visualize this great result to where you want to get to, so that you can work backwards. Put on, so if you're feeling stressed, put on some music. Music always makes you feel good. Play a song that you like. Even at work, we used to play different songs depending on what we were about to go into. And even before and after meetings, laughter is one of those best medicines. I don't think I would have been married for 29 years if I couldn't laugh at myself and laugh at the situations and the communication we get ourselves into. And of course, replace worry with problem solving. I was speaking about that before. If there isn't anything you can do about it, we have to think about it differently. Or for me, it's just to pray and just to let that go for the time, so I don't have to worry about it. It was the same with children coming home at night. I thought I'd be one of those parents who always sat up for them. I slept through everything. I'd go to bed and just pray they'd be okay. And guess what? They were. I was a bit lucky that way. Labor under correct knowledge. Might have worked hard in those junior years too. But, have a laugh.
Daddy's going to play them a little song while they're eating their peas.
It's the best medicine.
You guys ready?
Come on, have a dance with me, everyone. Have to do things that relieve stress, and I'm going to have a look at this activity next time. But I just want you to know that complaints do happen. Whether you're in sales, whether you're in property management, complaints going to happen. There's a few things you can choose. Aqua, laugh, blast. When I was working with customers, I loved blast. You've got to believe them, because this is what they believe, and listen, then apologize, satisfy their needs, and then show them that way forward, and thank them for telling you, because they didn't have to tell you. You may just never seen them again. And of course, with my teams, I love to laugh, where I listen, acknowledge, respond, and follow up. I think follow up is one of the most important things that we can do, whenever we are told information. So, be that problem solver. It will definitely help you get through your communication. There's one rule, and that's take care of the customer, because if you don't, someone else will. And people leave people. So in businesses, people leave businesses when they're not being heard, when they're not feeling valued. If you know all this and you don't do it, then you don't really know it. It's all these little things. You take away something today and start to implement it and make a difference. Now I've got a quiz for you as we finish up today. So we'll get through it very quickly. And I just want you to write down quickly in the chat what you get when you see these come up. So dealing with difficult conversations, you're going to choose A, B, or C. Quickly pop it in the chat, A, B, or C, and we'll see if you're right. You ready? Go. All right. It is C. Hi, John. A sensitive issue about your hygiene has come up. No one wants to talk about it, but we have to deal with this at times. You ready? True or false? If an employee doesn't want to change, they shouldn't have to. Type into your chat, true or false. What do we get? Yes, we get false. It is false. The employer does have a right to expect standards being met. All right, when choosing whether or not to proceed, A, B, or C, what are you going to choose? Keep going, keep throwing into the chat. I love that one, Kirk, the opportunity for advancement. Yeah, we're going to look at B, our consequences. What are the consequences of this conversation? They mightn't always be what you expect, so it's good to think about it. Difficult conversations can include what? A, B, C, or D? What do you have? Come on, everyone, throw into the chat. Don't sit back. Great. Yep, all of the above. Anything can be included in that. Active listening requires you to do what? A, B, C, or D? Perfect. All of the above. True or false? Some people simply do not retain what they are told no matter what they do. True or false? Anyone else got a different answer? Interesting. My husband said true too, but it's false. We can all learn to be better listeners by focusing on the speaker, making a decision to listen, only retain what they want to. Yes, but however, that means if we only want to, that means we can change it. We can learn to be better listeners. We can learn tools. If we don't retain information, we can start to keep a notepad on us so we can write it down or put it in our phone so we can all get better in that area. True or false? Some people hate to receive feedback even when it's good. Some people hate to receive feedback even when it's good. True or false? Yes, true. Some people have had such poor experiences with it. Oh, Ellie, we'll give you some great positive feedback that it can make a difference. All right, 8. A performance review or appraisal is what? A, B, C, or D? A performance review or appraisal is an example of. Let's have a look. Are there any other answers? Ellie says C, and Olivia, and yes, it's formal feedback. So it's formal feedback coming through for you. Okay, A, B, C, or D, what do you have? And then we have one more and then we'll wrap up. What has a big impact on what people hear us say? 55% of what we say is through what? A, B, C, or D? Ah, you're right, B. Body language has that big impact. Last but not least, constructive feedback should be delivered in teams, in public, in private. What do you say? Great, in private. Well done, everybody, because what's going to happen now is Hayley is having a look to see how many times you responded through this, and the person who responded the most is going to have a book sent out to them. You know, we want you to revolutionize the way that you connect and communicate. Unfortunately, I have no $1 Million Handshake books left, so we are sending out Better Business, Better World, Better Life to you. And you can get these online quite easily, but you know, I truly believe that a great leader is within all of us. We just need to make sure that we start to use these tools to make that difference. Remember, our bodies change our minds change our behavior, and our behavior changes our outcomes. So feel free to connect and communicate anytime. Any questions, please send through. Communication, it doesn't just happen, it's dependent on you. You are the most valuable asset. So we need to wear a great attitude. Thank you, everybody, for today. I know you all have the power.
Everybody get up.
Of all those body language movements, 700,000 different movements. You use it for good. Have some fun, have a good laugh, and I'll hand you over to Hayley. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I tallied up everything as we were going. So Kirk was actually the winner today with the book. So congratulations, Kirk. If you can send myself an email with your address, I promise I'm not going to be a weirdo stalker. And I'll forward that to Catherine and she can post that out to you. And Ali just had a question. What is that email address where you can send an email to you to get the information? It was in one of the earlier slides. Is it just hello?
Yeah, hello@catherinemalloy.com.au.
Awesome.
And
all right. Well,
I'll give you a link for free access. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for that. Now, I look forward to seeing everyone same time next week. Thank you, Catherine. I love today's session as well. I feel like I just need that boost or refresh at the moment. So it's come at a really good time for me and I hope everyone else has enjoyed it. But we will see you again same time next week for our final session.
Fantastic. You're a great group. Keep implementing and let us start to have a look at, you know, what is working for you and share that with us next week. Speak
Awesome.
soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.